Good afternoon from Kathmandu, Nepal. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about how we can judge where we are in our meditation. But before I do so, I'd like to say that the emphasis should always be the path. And what is the path? And learning how to enjoy the path. There's a saying in Buddhism, the strength of a horse is not known by how fast it can run, but how long it can run. And as far as Buddhist practice goes, you really have to be in it for the long haul, because genuine results that stay with us are a long, long, long time coming. And this is why the path, walking the path, should be enjoyable. If we find ourselves wondering why we don't have any experiences, or when some experiences will come, it's a pretty good sign that we're not enjoying the path. Recently I met a young woman who had the very good fortune, while being a tourist here in Nepal, to be buying incense near a sacred stupa to light around the Buddha images. And as she was purchasing it, an abbot of a monastery came and helped her in her selection of the incense, to help her find some good herbal incense. And he struck up a conversation with her and learned that she was from a Christian background and had no experience in meditation or Buddhist practice. And he offered to show her around his temple, which he did, and give her a mantra to recite, and instructed her in practice. And this was very auspicious. I was actually visiting the hotel. I was staying in that hotel for a short while, and I happened to see her, and I could tell that she was by herself and was unfamiliar with Nepal, and I gave her a candy bar, a power bar that I happen to have from America, and I told her, this will help you get some strength and to travel around Nepal. And then I saw her a few days later, and I asked her what she was doing, and she told me the story about the abbot. Well, long story short, we became pen pals, and she recently emailed me and asked me why she wasn't having any experiences, because she had been meditating as instructed by the abbot. Well, she had only been doing it for 2 weeks, so I said to her, I said, you know, I've been doing this for 50 years, pretty close, and I don't have any experiences to speak about. And I said to her, you have to understand that this can be a lifetime task, and realization doesn't come easy. And so the art of meditation isn't to have experiences, but to learn how to enjoy the path. So, how do we do that? No expectations. Lesson number 1. Understand what the path is. It's not unlike trekking in the mountains. If you're trekking in the mountains, which I've done, I'm not a good trekker, but I have done 2 or 3 week treks just to get to where I'm going and then stay there. But one thing you learn real fast if you trek the mountains is pay attention to what's in front of you. Because if you look at all the distant ridges and the valleys and stuff, and you see these little ant-like figures down by a river below, and you know that it's a 3 or 4 hour walk to get there, and then it's straight up from there for another 3 or 4 hours, and you look off at the distance and you see where you're going, it's not helpful. If you absorb yourself in what's in front of you, the road, the time goes really quickly. You become absorbed in your own mind, display of your own mind. So when we anticipate results and wonder where they are, it's just a play of the mind. And it's an unhelpful play of the mind. It's not the result of the meditation itself. It's a result of a failure to understand what the path entails. So the path entails discipline and sacrifice and a willingness to lay aside selfishness. Now, selfishness comes in many forms, of course. Selfishness excludes others and includes one. For the sake of oneself, one excludes others. So one seeks the best for oneself. And this comes in many forms too. We might, give five rupees or $5 to the temple and keep 100 for ourselves. This is a kind of selfishness. There's all kinds of selfishness. Nobody needs to be lectured on what selfishness is. But when it comes to Dharma practice, it manifests in different ways. Selfishness is anxiety about results. It's like, you give a little bit and you want back the whole world. Just like the girl that I met. She practiced 2 weeks, but she's wondering why she's not having great experiences. She fails to realize that, one reason is you've got a lot of obstacles and you've created a lot of negative karma that has to be worked out, so you're not carrying it around. So before your load can be lightened, you have to unload some of this karma. And in order to unload it, you got to know what it is. So it's a kind of selfishness just to want any kind of results. A less selfish person would just think, obviously, why should I have any experiences? I've lived a life that's not in accord with the Dharma, and I still have these impulses and ambitions that really aren't so much in accord with Dharma. And how can I possibly expect any kind of results when I don't have a pure offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of my mind and body? So we have to understand that when we meditate, we are really making an offering. We're sitting quietly, and our body is still, and we're making an offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And if the offering is immaculate, then there's going to be results. But unfortunately, the offering that we're making is not a very clean vessel. All we can offer is our karmic obstructions. We're not offering any purity of mind, so to speak, or insights, or clarity, mental clarity. We are actually offering a very murky mind. And although the Buddha's light may try its best to shine through it, because the mind is so clouded with our own obstructions, even the Buddha's light cannot illuminate. The Buddha said, "No one saved us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. The Buddhas merely show the way." So when we sit in meditation expecting the world, we should ask ourselves, well, what am I really offering? So how do we make a pure offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in hopes of gaining some kind of illumination? And illumination is really a terrible word to use, because light is always associated with realization, but that's just a concept. Light is just a concept. It could be just knowledge, certainty in one's self and mind, a intuition about how the world is, how we are, our relationship to it, interdependence. So making a pure offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is not a matter of just sitting quietly and closing one's eyes and allowing all thoughts to cease like a bump on a log. We cannot expect results that way. All we can expect is, at best, deluding ourselves like a beautiful woman in front of a mirror, admiring her own beauty endlessly. If we sit in meditation, even if we can sit long hours perfectly still, it's sort of like that. Sort of like the beauty queen in the mirror. We get all absorbed in our own stillness. This is not meditation. Meditation is dynamic and alive, and it creates a certainty about the nature of the mind. And certainly sitting still and becoming enamored in one's stillness is what is called dull emptiness. And no one with any kind of education in Dharma would ever subscribe to such a path. In order to get off on the right track, one must practice two forms of the path. One is analytical meditation, and one is transit meditation, and alternate these two. In order to practice analytical meditation, a certain amount of study is necessary, and logic and reasoning. It's not just enough to not know. We have to know what we don't know. And we're not going to understand what we don't know unless we study books to help us know what we don't know. If we just rest in not knowing, like many people do, and think this dull emptiness is some kind of great state of mind, we're really confused. And I know many people that think that enduring leg pain or breaking through leg pain is a sign of some sort of accomplishment. But it really isn't. For one thing, if you practice meditation long enough, your nerves and everything will get conditioned to sitting long hours. So if you can't sit more than a half hour at the beginning, and you're suddenly, after a few months or years, sitting 3 hours and thinking that's something, that's really foolish. Could be purely physical. Or if you're just kind of blanking out for 3 hours and 3 hours goes by like a few minutes, this is also really not where it's at. Proper meditation is a knowing awareness. And it could be knowing what you don't know. Keeping the mind focused on a topic of meditation, something that we've studied, and we don't quite get, but at least we know what we're not getting, because we've studied enough to understand that there's a point and a doubt that we arrive at. And we know that we don't know something. And that something has a particular flavor to it. So when we study books and reflect on the tenacious points, we can take as our topic of meditation one of the tenacious points, and it will have a certain flavor to it, just like a dish that we make. So while we are sitting quietly, we can bring to mind that tenacious point and just rest in the not knowing of that tenacious point and try and penetrate it. And whenever a different flavor is sensed in our mind, whenever we notice that we're off the tenacious point we're intended to be on and we want to resolve, then we've lost our meditation and we have to bring it back to that particular point. So if we penetrate that particular point, a certainty arises that we have penetrated that essential point. That certainty may be accompanied with light, but it is insight at any rate. We know that we got what we didn't know a few moments ago. And we move on to the next topic. This is analytical meditation. It's holding the mind on a certain flavor, a thought flavor, wherein we know what we don't know. Of all the many things we don't know, we stay on the one particular thing that we don't know until we penetrate it. Then we move on to the next. And Buddhist practice is multi-layered. And we can penetrate some points rather easily and some points less easily. But all along the road, we're very, very much absorbed in the path itself. And as we penetrate one point, then of course there's going to be more after that. So there's different levels of achievement. Just like climbing up in Mount Everest regions. You know, before you get to base camp, there's going to be rest houses along the way every day or two. So you stay at these rest houses knowing that there's further to go, but getting to these rest houses is in itself very enjoyable. You enjoy the path, and when you get to the rest house and you put your boots up and you have a cup of Tibetan tea, you feel just great. Same way with meditation. You know where you're going, just like a trekker knows he's going to Everest Base Camp. And when you get to a rest stop, you know that you're not having arrived at the main goal, but you're at a rest stop and you feel great about it. You've gotten that far. And so taking the path of meditation, walking on the path of meditation, sort of like that, you enjoy the whole ride. But you should know where you're going. Like this kind of like foolish meditation where, you know, staring at a wall and enduring leg pain, That's really upside down. That's not where it's at. It doesn't develop insight, and it certainly doesn't develop compassion. And when we come out of meditation, if the only thing we can think about is, oh gosh, I've sat 5 hours, this is really fantastic, I've never sat 5 hours before.